And do you feel that there's more things banks and senior leaders can do to help recapture the talent that's maybe lost at that VP level due to family commitments?
I know, there's some Wall Street firms do returnship programs. I think they're a great idea. I think there's a lot of talent out there that would be great to come back. We don't do that yet at Evercore. It's something I'd like to see us do over time because I do think that's a very important pool of talent. But I think that sponsorship is so important. So some of my most important sponsors throughout my career, they were all men and they just invested in me. I still have male sponsors here that have really made my career. And I think we need more of that, frankly, to kind of get women moving up the ranks and even coming back.
And do you have advice for male leaders listening on how to be better in that area or how to build more sponsorship of aspiring female leaders into their work, into their business?
Sure. I think just taking the time to engage with women, particularly at that VP and early MD level, and the ones that are doing great work for you, you want to just invest in them and you want to make sure that you're putting them in positions to be successful. What I mean by that is making sure they're getting speaking roles at meetings, making sure that if now they're supposed to be developing their own client relationships, what I tend to do with our young MDs or senior VPs, if they're taking on new client relationship responsibilities, sometimes I'll kick open the door for them, meaning I'll get the introduction, I'll go with them to a meeting and then let them take it on. It's really about helping people develop that skill set. And oftentimes, because there's fewer women at the top, sometimes I believe women just don't connect as well, or they don't have that sponsorship because they don't necessarily see an example of someone who has a very similar experience to them. And so it takes more proactivity, I think, for the male sponsors to make sure that they're listening and they're helping and supporting.
I want to go back to the comment you made about a leader, a North Star. There's so much said about mentorship. How important is a mentor for growth? I think that's the first thing. And the second thing I'd like to know is a bit about what are your recommendations to find the right mentor?
Yes, very good and very important question. So, for me, and also speaking about my personal history, a mentor is incredibly important. And for me, a good mentor provides guidance, but more so challenges yourself, challenges your thinking, and in an ideal case, also sees potential in you that you might not recognize yourself. So, for me, a mentor needs to push me out of my comfort zone and helps me to become my best self. And speaking about my personal history, if I joined a company that was consisting of two people, a startup company right after university, and Harald Melville Mummert, they were mentors for me from day one. And I would have never ever been where I've been today without that mentorship. They believed in me, they saw the potential, and they challenged me in the best possible way. And a mentor does not always have to be easy and comfortable. It has been discussions and whatever, but it's just unbelievably precious for a successful career. And also referring to the second part of your question, how do you find the right one? I think it helps if you look for someone that you could look up to that does an incredible job in the everyday business. You sometimes admire the person for what they do and from what you can learn. And I think very important is it should be someone that is able to challenge you. If someone only validates your own ideas, it's not the best mentor. They need to kick your ass, to say it that way. And that's not always like in companies, you often have a formal mentor that takes care of you. So this is great. But sometimes the mentor that will really develop you, it's not your formal mentor, but it's someone that you might pick because you think he or she could really provide valuable advice.
I want to pull back a second because you mentioned leadership, you mentioned finding the right leader, and you touched on mentorship briefly, but we didn't really unpack it. So, how important have mentors been for you, and how did you find the right one? That's a question I get asked a lot.
It's a great question, and it's never going to be one size fits all, right? And I think that's important because you talked about my experience at a bulge bracket. Bulge brackets tend to have formal mentorship programs where day one, HR provides you a mentor. And for some people, maybe the lucky few, that turns out to be a great fit. But for most of us, it's not. It's unnatural. And so I think it goes going back to the general theme of taking a little bit more ownership. I think the most valuable mentors for me are those that I sought out for specific reasons or perspectives, or that evolved more organically, and that we had a little bit more of a closer personal connection. So I think the formal mentorship programs are a great place to start, but I wouldn't stop there. That's only kind of the bare minimum. I would always encourage you to go out and seek not only a number of different mentors with different perspectives, but also to constantly be rethinking of those relationships, because you may lean in and out of certain mentorship relationships over time based on where you're at in your career. I'd like to have a pretty diverse set of people that I go to. I like some to be those that I work with that may know my work and professional circumstances extremely well. I have people that are outside the industry, because sometimes you get so lost in the sauce and you're focused on such a narrow vertical that you can lack perspective, right? And sometimes
Sure.
the challenges you're faced with, an outsider can identify it, easily. And so I think being proactive, trying to have some diversity in thought in who your mentors are, and just embracing that it's going to be a never ending process. The same mentors when I started my career are not the same as they are today. Some aren't, and that's okay, right? You're ultimately, what I look for them is that different perspective.
And you touched there, I guess mentorship is part of that as well, right? And we know it's so critical for success in the industry. And leaders tell me all the time, if I'd done one thing earlier in my career, it would have been get a mentor earlier or look for a mentor earlier. So keen to get your take on that. First of all, has it played a key part in your growth and your career path? And if so, why?
I've always craved for feedback and mentorship over the years. As you said, looking back, I could have probably even sought more mentorship at certain moments. But I think mentors have always played a role because, like you said, they give you a experience. They said 10 years ago, I did that. It didn't work out at all. Make sure you think about that. So little pointers that can sometimes really go a long way. And then the other point is really about that human relationship. There's moments in our careers, in our lives, where we have really important decisions to make. And where frankly, we feel that we need support, or we just need a sounding board. And I think going out there and seeking feedback and seeking to talk with somebody acting as a sounding board is actually a sign of maturity, or even wisdom in certain moments. And the more you advance in your careers, the more you're going to have important decisions to make and complex decisions to make. And you want to be able to have the ability to go to close advisors, close personal advisors, to help you navigate some of these questions. Mentorship is absolutely critical at every stage of a career. There's not that age where that's it, I'm done, no need for mentors anymore. I still crave mentorship today, especially as we build our firm. It's really keeping that mindset that going out there and seeking advice and help is actually a sign of strength to some extent.